comme vous le savez, il y aura le débat présidentiel la semaine prochaine. Et aujourd'hui, il vient pour la préparation, pour l'installation d'autres choses. Et donc, à 1h, absolument, tout le monde devrait déjà être hors de réfectoire pour qu'ils puissent commencer à faire des affaires. Et comme c'est pour dire aussi qu'en sortant déjà ici, que vous partez avec vos affaires. Et puis, la session de cet après-midi, la session de concilium reste, il n'y a pas de changement. Ce sera notre endroit probable, sûrement.
Okay, the session running from 1:45 to 2:45 will take place at the hall. So we are changing halls today from here to Jubilee, where we started our conference. If you remember, you'll be directed to that place. So the sessions from 2:45 all through to 4 will take place at the Jubilee Hall auditorium, where we were last time. After which, we'll have the Eucharistic celebration as it is on the program, 4:45 to 6, and it will take place at the Missio Hall, where we were for the Eucharistic celebration on the first day. So today, we're using this hall for the afternoon session, Jubilee Hall, for the Eucharistic celebration, Missio Hall, and for the evening session will be at the Jubilee session, but Jubilee Hall, but it will be directed on that.
Donc, cet après-midi, on va reprendre comme on a fait le premier jour. Tout se fera de l'autre côté. On fera la session de cet après-midi dans la même salle où on était la dernière fois. Pour la messe, on le fera aussi le même endroit qu'on l'a fait dernièrement. Mais ne vous préoccupez pas, on va vous guider. On vous dira au moment venu.
We also requested to have a look at the final statement that was posted on the general group, please. And in case of any amendments that you want effected to the same, make sure that you do it before midday because it has to be set out for the announcement later in the day.
Comme on a communiqué hier, il y a une déclaration qui se fera à la fin. Normalement, chaque session comme celle-ci, on fait une déclaration. C'est déjà écrit et c'est dans le groupe, le forum des participants de cette activité. Si vous avez un commentaire, quelque chose que vous pensez qu'on n'a pas mis ou qu'on aurait mis, vous avez encore quelques temps pour le signaler parce que tout de suite après cette activité, ceux qui l'ont fait vont retourner pour faire un travail final.
A reminder for the buying of the books of the last session that we had in 2019, please, if you have not gotten yourself a copy, do it. Then you will be required also to register your names in any of the groups or in one of the groups that belong to this group so that you may so that you may be registered as a member for the next sessions and also for the discussions that we'll be having in the course of the year before we meet for the other session in 2 years' time.
Donc, si vous n'avez pas encore acheté de livre ou le résultat du dernier congrès qui est tenu à Enugu, je sais que c'est en anglais, mais vous pouvez tout l'acheter, ce n'est pas compliqué. Si vous n'avez pas encore acheté, essayez de l'acheter. On le vend devant, faites une action. Et on a aussi on a demandé à ceux qui ne sont pas encore inscrits, qui puissent le faire. Parce qu'en dehors de cette assemblée, de ce congrès, il y a toujours des activités qui viennent régulièrement. Et donc, mettez vos noms et vos coordonnées de façon qu'on puisse vous rejoindre, que vous puissiez participer dans d'autres activités qui ont lieu au cours de l'année.
Thank you. Now, I call upon Simon Mary to come forth, Simon Mary. And as he comes, I would like to call upon Bishop Kusala, the president for this Congress, to come forward also. Sister Ngalula, too, please come forward and take your position up here. And I'll call upon Ann Nyamnobo, who is one of the panelists today, to come forward. So is Edward Obi and Brau Diodune Kofi to come forward. And those will be our panelists today and for this plenary session. And can we please clap for them as they come forward? And the person who will be chairing the session is Jose Galula, so she will be wearing two hats again this morning. You clap for her as she comes forward. Thank you.
Okay, I was wondering, like, I'm not a panelist. I don't want to take away from what people are doing. Okay, good morning, everyone. I would like to say something that's very important to the Congress. A few of us were tasked with drafting the statement of the Congress, and we've been working, and then as you noticed, we did send you the draft, which some of you have added some of your comments, and which we will be looking at immediately after this plenary. The committee will be walking downstairs. But before that also, if you notice on that document we sent out, there is a section that says commitment, and we left it blank. So now I'm going to task you, I'm going to literally ask you to put your brains on the fast speed. So in the sense that if you can get a piece of paper out, just write one commitment you think, if you feel you are just strongly about it, that you have a commitment you want this Congress to embrace. Could you write that down now, that in English, French, or Spanish? The committee members are able to address those languages. And then we will gather those papers right now within the next 5 minutes, and then we'll pass this on to the wonderful panelists. So they have to write it now, yeah.
Comme vous avez constaté, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, dans le forum, il y a la déclaration qu'on a faite et quelques personnes l'ont travaillé. Mais ce qui est important, c'est qu'à la fin, vous trouvez qu'il y a un endroit où on devait faire l'engagement. L'engagement. Quel engagement est-ce que ce congrès prend? Qu'est-ce qu'on décide? Qu'est-ce qu'on attend? Qu'est-ce qu'on voudrait faire? Où est-ce qu'on va aller? Où est-ce qu'on se voit dans l'avenir? Donc prenez le temps maintenant. On a 2 minutes. Justement, prenez quelque chose et écrivez maintenant. Écrivez ce que vous voulez. Il peut arriver qu'il y a ceux qui n'ont pas de crayons ou de papier. Si vous n'en avez pas, écrivez envoyez-le directement dans la page de WhatsApp où on l'a déposé. So I was saying, there might be those who don't have something to write now. Let them write it on that forum. But it's better to write on a paper. But if you can't, write it on that forum. We'll get it.
But we need it now because this document must be finalized before noon by the committee. So whatever you're writing, if you want to put it through WhatsApp or here on a piece of paper, it has to be done now, please.
Maintenant, pas après. Faut l'écrire maintenant.
A word from Father Obi for 1 minute, please.
Just a quick announcement. First of all, I have a book which is on the stand, not this stand here, but the stand where the books are being sold next to the Pauline Sisters. And it is on ownership of natural resources and the challenge of economic justice. It's a book that I have just published a couple of months ago, and please do take a copy home. I have video CDs also that I wish to distribute. They are not for sale, and they are not enough for everybody, so perhaps 1 copy per country represented. After my presentation or during the break, please approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good listening.
So we are going to walk through the aisle right now to collect what you've written. Thank you.
Over to you, Sister Jose.
Merci. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour à tout le monde. So now we are ready to begin our first, the morning session. I recall you that it's the plenary session about a vital church in Africa and in the world. Donc notre session de ce matin tourne autour du thème « Une église vitale en Afrique et dans le monde ». So we begin with Sister Anna Teresa Nyandombo. She is the National Education and Safeguarding Coordinator of the Conference of Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops. She is a lecturer of social sciences, including communication, ethics, safeguarding, and trainer of trainer at different levels. Sister Anna.
Good morning, everyone. My Lord Bishop, the President of the Conference, the Co-President, all protocols observed. I'm happy to be with you. As it has been introduced, for the past 10 years, I was working with the Bishops' Conference of Zimbabwe in the area of safeguarding and education. I started by developing the policy on safeguarding and also to train in the issues of how we can create safe places for everyone. When I mean everyone, it means everybody, from expecting mothers to the highest authority. I have done this work in collaboration with other people in the conference who are in different commissions to promote a holistic approach on human development. Today, I'm here to introduce Vital Church in Africa. Who is this of whom I hear such things? This was a verse which came from St. Luke chapter 9, verse 7, when King Herod was puzzled to hear the work our Lord Jesus was doing. It is in this vein that the paper which I am writing has 4 components. The first one, a background for a vital church in Africa. Then the second one are the key characteristics of a vital church in Africa. Then it is followed by the essence of vital church as a panacea in resolving African challenges. Last but not least, reflecting on the greatest gift of lessons learned on how to become a vital church. Vital church, knowing Africa as a continent, is coming from a background where there are so many challenges, which I don't need to itemize now, but I want to go straight to the point of my point in a vital church in Africa. The background of the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference on safeguarding is creating safe places for everyone, a safe environment where we say no to all forms of abuse. And some of the abuses which are there are abuse of power, abuse of finance, abuse of property, sexual abuse, negligence, just to name a few. What is it that we want from a vital church? A vital church is there to come to empower its members with the knowledge and the ability to be able to answer to society's problems. Human beings are placed in an environment where there are challenges some from poor environments, others from human creation, like wars, and sometimes because of corruption. You find these are the members also belong to the church. And knowing that every member in the church has a role to play through baptism, or were empowered to embrace the kingship of Christ, also to embrace prophetic ministry, and all are witnesses to the good news, the gospel. It is in this vein that we want a vital church which goes into society to transform the society, to transform every individual in the society, and a vital church which is a torch-bearer to everyone. A vital church in Africa is a church which is able to bring newness of life to those who are disheartened, with broken hearts, and also with other challenges, like the challenges of drugs, challenges of illness, and sometimes challenges of losing hope, those who commit suicide. It is the vital church's ministry to go and call on these people, like Jesus sent his disciples, go to the ends of the earth and bring life to its fullness. And members of the vital church are called upon to acknowledge God's presence in every person created here on earth, or are created in the image of God. Hence, each one of us is a special call to participate in the church and also to contribute to the new life of personal identity, new life of encountering God, and new life of remaining in sincere and mutual relationships. The key characteristics of a vital church in Africa are: we need servant leadership, visionary leadership, to be training discipleships, a culture of change where a culture can be used as an enabler for good practices, and also enculturation will be a vehicle of change in those cultures in Africa which are a barrier to safe places. Also, we find the characteristics of a vital church also goes on engaging faith. We have other religions, and in the Catholic Church, we use the word ecumenism, respect for others. And we are respecting because still we have that image, all created in the image of God, and all embrace the gifts of the Holy Spirit. A vital church is a church which is able to dialogue and to respect. A church which is able to witness the body of Christ. Many hands, but one body. We are the hands, the eyes, the feet, and the heart of Christ today. A vital church also is a church of accompaniment, where it seeks to listen to those in the peripheral, and also where it seeks to bring people together as a family. It is a church which is accountable in all matters, even to be accountable like what Cain was asked, where is your brother? We can ask ourselves, where is my sister? Where is my brother today? It is the work of the vital church to transform the mindsets of people and also the attitudes of people. We are signs of God, and we are walking in God's footsteps. Hence, our work should be a work which is united, like the unity which is there in the Trinity. God, Son, and Holy Spirit. There are three persons, but one. And in the Vital Church, when people come to celebrate the Eucharist, we are one in God. We share and partake in the same spirit, and also we share those gifts God wants us to go in the society with the spirit of searching for those who have no one to take care of them. An inclusive church where the church will also think about other people through the gift of prudence, fortitude, and also perseverance. It is in the Vital Church also as a characteristic that life should be enjoyed. People come to church for social issues, and also they come to pray. They unite in spirit, they unite in heart, and also they unite in soul. So our three pillars of life, body, soul, and spirit, need to be cultivated. And it brings us to the point where the paper will be looking at the essence of the Vital Church as a panacea to resolving the African challenges. The church is a light and salt. We are here as members of the Vital Church, and each one of us here has a responsibility to take home. And a Vital Church is a church which continues to research and also which continues to reflect on the Word of God and act according to what the Word is sending, where we will be invited to act justly, promote justice, and also promote peace. It is the responsibility of the Vital Church members that when we talk about leadership, we also include all aspects of life. We also include holistic approach to address the human person, including our political leaders. The members of a Vital Church should not fear. They bring in life in abundance. They train, they witness, they are encouraged by the power of God, who brings the face of Christ to everyone, those who are suffering and also those who are healthy. And according to Jesus, it is the health who need to be the eyes of those who need the work to be accomplished. When we talk about transformation, it begins with us internally examination of conscience, and also externally where we are expected to reach out to individuals, families, small Christian communities, parishes, dioceses, and deaneries. All these are levels of structures in the church, where when we talk about a Vital Church, we don't leave anyone behind. Everyone should be respected. And when you talk about individuals have also their challenges, and it is these members in the Vital Church who are alive, like what Pope Paul VI said, let's capacitate everyone so that we can have a community where there's responsibility for one another. And also Pope Francis echoed almost the same sentiments when he talked about all of us are in a journey in the Synodal Church. Synodal Church where we are inviting unity, participation, and to listen to each other. It is also in the Vital Church instance that when we talk about being on journey. All of us here, we journeyed to come to this place, but we are also having a journey to salvation. And I cannot have a complete journey without caring for my brother, caring for the environment, and also caring for one another. And with that, we can pause to think about some of the questions. Evaluating and assessing the current church, what would you need to change to make it healthy? What have you learned from the previous church activities that at the moment we are looking for a vital church? What we will continue to be doing when you leave this place as a member of the vital church or as someone being called by God to make a change in life? What will stop you doing what you want to do, especially when you are alone, reflecting about life in its fullness? Who is this Jesus who made the King Herod to say, who is this of whom I hear such things? Jesus worked miracles, Jesus healed, Jesus also touched the sick, Jesus also left us with some sacraments which empowers us to continue the work of God. And who is this Jesus to me at the moment? That is the vital church where we have the face of Jesus in our everyday life. Even if I look around, you see the face of Jesus in the other person. Who is this Jesus in the vital church? Who is calling me to transform, to change, and also to think about others? Vital church here and now is your faith, commitment, love, support, vision, values, and all that contribute to the well-being of the church, and also that makes you awaken the conscience to be a better person, to start the journey of salvation with others, and also to do all what you can for the common good and justice for the kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Anna.
Révérende sœur, peut se résumer à une seule question. Qu'est-ce que l'Église vitale? Ou quelle Église vitale nous voulons? Et la réponse peut être saisie en 3 points. D'abord, il a commencé par décrire ce que la conférence des évêques de son pays refuse, c'est-à-dire les abus d'ordre sexuel, les abus d'ordre financier, les abus d'ordre foncier. Et dans sa réponse, il y a 3 éléments, comme je l'ai dit. Le premier, c'est le modèle de l'Église vitale. C'est une Église en interaction avec la société. Le deuxième élément, ce sont les caractéristiques de cette Église vitale. Et le troisième élément, ce sont, disons, une interpellation de ce que les membres de cette Église vitale doivent être. Et donc, dans le premier point, lorsqu'il parle de modèle de l'Église vitale, c'est une Église en interaction avec la société. Ça veut dire que cette Église doit être une lampe qui éclaire la société. Cette Église doit être un lieu de guérison où toutes les personnes brimées par la vie viennent trouver refuge et rédemption. Dans le deuxième élément, le caractéristique de cette Église, c'est une Église qui a un leadership visionnaire. Une Église qui cultive non pas une culture de la stabilité ou de la stagnation, mais plutôt des changements. Une Église qui a une foi engagée, une Église qui est ouverte au dialogue et à l'écuménisme, une Église qui est appelée constamment au dialogue, mais surtout à l'accompagnement des personnes qui, sur le chemin de la vie, soit au néolibéralisme, se sentent exclues. Et c'est aussi une Église qui insiste beaucoup sur le principe de redevabilité. Une Église aussi qui prend à bras le corps le problème de chacun, c'est-à-dire le corps, l'âme et l'esprit, pour une culture meilleure. Et le troisième élément dans cette réponse, les membres de cette Église ont une vocation. C'est la vocation de la transformation de la société. Et pour cela, ils doivent promouvoir la justice et la paix. Ils doivent aussi être constamment à l'écoute de la parole de Dieu et surtout le principe des responsabilités, c'est-à-dire la responsabilité lévinassienne, c'est-à-dire nous sommes responsables les uns à l'égard des autres. Et il a conclu sa conférence en posant des questions, en disant que nous ne devons pas partir d'ici simplement après avoir écouté, mais c'est poser les questions pour apporter les changements qu'il faut. Et la question la plus importante, que devons-nous changer pour que cette Église vitale advienne?
Merci beaucoup. Now we are going to listen to Father Edward Obi from Nigeria.
The most that some people know about the Niger Delta in Nigeria is the fact that in 1995, a certain prominent environmentalist known as Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed by the military regime of General Sani Abacha. He was a man who had undertaken a non-violent struggle for environmental sanity amidst oil and gas productions in the Niger Delta, particularly in his own home area of Ogoniland. And he undertook this struggle because during, as at that time, over 40 years of oil exploration and exploitation, the oil giant Shell had polluted the land in so many and so varied ways. Unfortunately, because oil is the mainstay of the economy of Nigeria, the military government could not countenance the fact that somebody was restricting the operations of the oil and gas industry. But the point is clear that unregulated, unrestricted oil and gas production can lead to various environmental catastrophes, as we already know in Ogoniland. I will save a lot of that introduction and go to that there is a clash of perspectives here. There's a clash of understandings between the mercantile mentality that is fostered by the oil and gas industry and the more communitarian and communalistic lifestyle of the local people of Ogoniland. Now, the market system cannot operate in the air. It requires an environment on which to function. Now, the environment inevitably becomes a set of inconvenient variables that operators would prefer to keep out of the calculation. They would like to operate as if there was no environment upon which they were operating. Now, this prospect, of course, will dampen the interest of those who seek to invest in the business. If the environment was calculated into that equation, of course, the costs will be high, and those who are looking for quick profit may be deterred. But you cannot operate without factoring in the environment. The results are there to be seen in Ogoniland, where the operations did not factor in the environment. Their waters are polluted. The atmosphere is fetid with carbon in the atmosphere. And the land itself has become almost infertile because of incessant oil pollution. Now, in the face of all of this, it is hard for a church like ours that is supposed to take into consideration the human person. The human person created in the image and likeness of God is created and given, endowed with all the good that God gives to us. And if the good that God gives to us for our sustenance is destroyed in this way, it would not help that the church remains silent. The Bishops' Conference of Nigeria did not remain silent. They challenged the bishops of the two metropolitan provinces that are in that area where the oil production is carried on, namely Calabar province and the province of Benin City, and challenged the 11 odd bishops there to take on this matter and then report to the big body. Now, in 2010, those bishops came together and established what is now known as the Niger Delta Catholic Bishops Forum. It is a forum specifically meant to look at the issues that are emanating from that region, issues connected with the oil and gas production, the discontent and the disaffection of people, the violence that often crops up in these areas, and the endemic poverty of the area, a contrast of sorts. How can an area that produces the wealth of Nigeria also be accounted as the poorest in the country? So the Niger Delta Catholic Bishops Forum set about their work, engaging with communities, engaging with the oil industry, and bringing both parties around the table to discuss the best and more human way or more humane way of doing the oil and gas industry. The bishops are not against the production of oil and gas. The bishops are against the pollution of the environment while you are doing that. If there is a way to do it without polluting the environment, the bishops will be all for it. Now, in a contribution that I myself made to Concilium, Volume 5 in 2018, edited by Linda Hogan, I said something like this. The church must be prophetic in its response, in solidarity to the injustice that has already happened to the poor. But even more than that, she must also, and at the same time, be as vigilant as a mother hen to ward off oppressive situations that may begin with an isolated incident but grow in stature to envelop and perturb the lives of the people. The church must furthermore, and perhaps more importantly, the church must identify and stay engaged with officials of the state at all levels, since they are the ones whose decisions ultimately affect people's lives for good or ill. Doing this, I said, in an ongoing basis is not a sign of weakness, but on the contrary, it entails a conscious effort on the part of the church to work with and through her own trained agents and other well-meaning bodies to build peace, influence politics and policy, and save the people from injustice, unquote. This is what the Bishops' Forum did when it engaged severally with Shell and with the local communities at the highest levels. Now, this resulted, of course, in a presence of the church in the cleanup process that is going on. We have people on ground who are following up the cleanup process and ensuring that more damage is not done. Now, having done that, I looked around to locate a theologian with whom I could do palaver. And I identified Father George Hussaini, a priest of Lokoja Diocese in Nigeria, who is well known for his innocuous yet persistent social activism. He is one of the few remaining voices wailing in what is fast becoming a wilderness of socio-political well-being in Nigeria. Well-groomed in African thought and spirituality, Father Hussaini promotes a vision of a decolonized Africa, not only from political oppression, but also from global economic pressures and ruptures. Drawing from the wisdom of the ancients of African spirituality, he constructs an Afro-Christian humanism that begins with a deconstruction of the project of coloniality. For him, the purpose of the colonial project was, inter alia, to demean African personhood and cast it in primitive, backward, and inferior, good only for the exploitable resources that it harbors. The cumulative impact of this over the long period of colonial governance surely bred inferiority complex in colonized peoples. Though these nationalist leaders were schooled in Western philosophies, the skills acquired therefrom were deployed for and honed in on an endeavor that would penetrate the truth in the life of the people and make an important contribution to the universal human thought. Note that Africa's original thinkers first proposed this movement as oppositional and in terms like negritude and against colonial rule. However, newly independent African peoples soon found out that political and economic freedom alone, without a commensurate intellectual, imaginational, and emotional freedom, meant that they lacked the power to ponder upon self-identity, one's origin and destiny. Hussaini, in building the Afro-Christian humanism, went a step further in recovering an innate dignity of the human person in her ecology, including soils, vegetation, waters, and all contained therein. The spiritual values that these conjure are always placed first in African mercantile exchanges. This is the kind of theology, the kind of understanding of our environment that Hussaini promotes. It is the kind of environmental ethics that I also have tried to engage in, because it is impossible not to do business. No one says African communities should not engage in business, including the business of exploiting natural resources. However, if those natural resources are being exploited at the expense of the environment, at the expense of the lives of the people, then there's something wrong with that. And it is the church of all institutions, it is the church that must stand in that space, in that gap between the oil companies or any other business conglomerate and the people who bear the brunt of that business. Otherwise, why are we church? Otherwise, why do we have to do the business of theology if our theology is not grounded on the lives, the aspirations, the anxieties, the fears, and everything that people have to endure? I would like to conclude very quickly. I find resonance in Hussaini's critique of the strange and dominant Western identity and the inherent ideology of radical individualism. I think this is what propels the market economic mentality. And I believe very strongly that it is possible to do business in another way. In a business in a more humane environment, a business that also looks at the people, that has a human face, that looks at the people who are there and sharing that environment with the business. After all, the people are always there before the business. After all, the people own the resources that are in the land, the same resources that the companies need in order to make their business flourish. That is the middle ground that I would like the church to step into. And my theology is based on that. I think that the church cannot abdicate, not at that time, not in that space. And I rest with saying certainly that Hussaini has captured the imagination of the average person who is looking at that empty space that the church should occupy. I invite this Congress to occupy that space with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Edward. We'll hear for summary in French.
Le Père a parlé de la situation du peuple Ogoni en rapport avec les industries qui exploitent le pétrole. On peut résumer son intervention en une seule thèse. La voici, la production non régulée du pétrole conduit à une catastrophe environnementale inacceptable. On voit un clash d'un côté entre l'industrie du pétrole, et spécialement Shell, et de l'autre côté, les styles de vie communautaire du peuple Ogoni, complètement déstructuré. Tel est le problème. Comment il les traite maintenant? En 3 points simplement. Le premier, c'est le problème de l'environnement. Le deuxième, la réponse de l'Église. Et le troisième, la contribution particulière d'un théologien, le père Georges Hussaini. Pour ce qui est de l'environnement, nous savons les dégâts que peuvent causer l'exploitation non régulée du pétrole. Il y a la pollution de l'air, il y a la terre qui devient complètement infertile à cause de cette pollution, et bien d'autres injustices qui se créent à cause de la déstructuration de la société primitivement mieux organisée. Quelle a été la réponse de l'Église catholique? Les évêques ont constitué un forum qu'ils ont appelé Niger Delta Catholic Bishop Forum. Et dans ces forums, leur rôle, c'est de discuter tous ces problèmes qui créent l'exploitation sauvage du pétrole, les problèmes parmi lesquels la violence, la pauvreté, les injustices. Et alors, pour y faire face, ils ont été vraiment une église prophétique dans leur réponse, une église tout à fait vigilante à l'oppression que causent ces industries sur la population, une église qui semble être au milieu entre, d'un côté, l'État qui fait les contrats et de l'autre côté, les industries qui exploitent pour pouvoir gagner. Et alors, le troisième élément, c'est la réponse de Georges, du père Georges. En un mot, ça se résume dans ces concepts, l'afro-chrétien humanisme, qui comprend à la fois une critique du colonialisme et ensuite une promotion des valeurs spirituelles qui tiennent compte de l'écologie et d'une éthique communautaire, d'une éthique économique à visage humain. Et enfin, l'Église qui devra nécessairement être à cheval entre, d'un côté, les peuples exploités et de l'autre côté, les multinationales qui exploitent. En conclusion, il a dit ceci, non seulement il faut critiquer l'individualisme qui vient avec les néolibéralismes capitalistes, mais il faut aller plus loin en proposant un type d'économie qui soit à visage humain, parce qu'au bout du compte, les pétroles, ce ne sont que des choses matérielles. Le plus important sont les peuples qui sont responsables de ces pétroles-là. Comment faut-il l'exploiter dans une justice qui soit distributive?
Merci beaucoup, Père. Now we are going to listen to Mr. Kofi Bru. He's not a priest. Mr. Kofi Bru is a teacher researcher at the Higher School of Music and Drama of the National Institute of Arts and Cultural Action in Abidjan. Voilà. Maintenant, nous allons écouter M. Kofi Bru. Il n'est pas un prêtre. Monsieur, il est un enseignant-chercheur à l'École supérieure des musiques et des danses de l'Institut national des arts et de l'action culturelle à Abidjan.
Thank you, Mama Jose, for the floor. My presentation is about the political commitment of the African Church in the face of the Machiavellian articulation of morality and politics. I'm very happy to be here. Please, I want to do it in French. Ma communication est intitulée « L'engagement politique de l'Église africaine face à l'articulation machiavélienne de la morale et de la politique ». Un tel thème suscite des motivations, est suscité par des motivations. Les motivations sont de 3 ordres. La première motivation est d'ordre personnel. Je suis enseignant dans une école de musique, mais je suis avant tout issu d'une école de philosophie. J'ai un doctorat en philosophie qui porte sur Nicolas Machiavel. Donc, c'est parce que je suis à l'école de Machiavel que j'ai choisi ce thème. L'objectif, c'est de pouvoir contribuer à travers la pensée machiavélienne à la construction ou à la consolidation d'une église vitale. La deuxième motivation est d'ordre scientifique. En fait, dans la pensée politique, on aborde moins des questions qui sont en rapport direct avec l'Église vitale. Or, aujourd'hui, comme hier, l'Église a intérêt à s'impliquer dans la gestion de la société. La séparation du pouvoir spirituel et du pouvoir temporel qu'on a aujourd'hui, c'est limite. Parce que tout ce qui touche à la société touche avant tout à l'Église, parce que ce sont les chrétiens qui sont les membres de la société. Je vous fais l'économie de la troisième motivation et je viens à la problématique qui est très essentielle. La première question, qui est la question principale, est la suivante. En tant qu'institution religieuse, l'Église a-t-elle le droit d'interférer dans les affaires politiques des pays africains? Cette question suscite trois autres, qui sont les questions secondaires. La pensée machiavélienne peut-elle, au regard de l'actualité et du christianisme, saper l'engagement politique de l'Église en Afrique? La seconde question, au-delà des avertissements machiavéliens, pourquoi est-il nécessaire que l'Église s'invite davantage dans la politique africaine? La dernière, quelles sont les raisons sociales et religieuses qui justifient l'implication de l'Église dans la gestion des pays africains? Pour répondre à ces questions, le travail s'est articulé autour de trois parties. La première, c'est que la réalité africaine cautionne l'implication de l'Église. Nous voyons que dans nos différents pays, l'Église, tout comme les autres communautés religieuses, notamment la communauté musulmane, est invitée dans les affaires politiques par les politiciens eux-mêmes. Lorsqu'il y a des campagnes électorales, on assiste à la présence massive des politiciens dans les églises. On assiste à des dons lors des jeûnes et prières des politiciens dans les églises. Tout cela a un enjeu politique. C'est la campagne. Donc les chrétiens sont en quelque sorte instrumentalisés, utilisés, exploités. Ils sont utilisés comme, excusez-moi du terme, du bétail électoral. Donc, face à cette propagande, les chrétiens se voient invités dans les affaires politiques. Alors, ils y participent et ils se donnent aussi le droit de donner leur point de vue sur des sujets politiques. La deuxième partie, pour répondre à la deuxième question, c'est que la Bible même n'interdit pas la pratique de la politique aux chrétiens. Jésus ne fut-il pas un grand homme politique? Ne fut-il pas un leader? Si Jésus est parvenu à diriger 12 apôtres, si Jésus est parvenu à s'éterniser, entre griffes, je vais dire dans le monde sensible ici, n'est-ce pas parce qu'il a été un grand leader, il a été un grand homme politique? David, Moïse, Salomon, tous ces grands noms de la Bible, ne fut-il pas des grands hommes politiques? Nulle part, la Bible n'interdit la politique aux chrétiens. Donc, le chrétien qui veut s'y adonner, il en a le droit. Mais, il y a des avertissements de Nicolas Machiavel. C'est ce qui me paraît très important. Nicolas Machiavel, c'est une grande figure de la pensée politique. Il est de l'Italie de la Renaissance. Et Nicolas Machiavel pense que la politique et la religion sont de deux sphères différentes. Parce que la politique a ses moyens qui lui sont intrinsèques. Et au nom de ces moyens, Nicolas Machiavel cite la force et la ruse. Il dit que la force est propre à la fois aux animaux, mais aussi aux hommes. Mais la force dont Nicolas Machiavel parle, c'est la violence. Il va plus loin en encourageant cette violence dans la pratique politique. Il dit que lorsque la violence elle est constructive, il faut l'encourager. Mais est-ce que la violence, qu'elle soit constructive ou pas, doit être encouragée par le chrétien qui prône avant tout la non-violence, la tolérance? Je pense que non. Donc de ce fait, la force en tant que moyen politique ne devrait pas susciter chez les chrétiens la pratique de la politique. Le deuxième moyen qui est intrinsèque aux politiques dont Nicolas Machiavel parle, c'est la ruse. Le plus souvent, lorsqu'on parle de la ruse, lorsqu'on parle du rusé, on pense à qui? On pense au diable. On dit c'est le malin, c'est le rusé. Lorsqu'on ruse avec des gens, c'est comme si on est un peu l'apôtre du diable. Or, la politique, le politicien, il est avant tout un homme rusé, il ruse avec tout le monde. Ce qui l'intéresse, c'est le pouvoir, soit l'acquisition ou sa conservation. Donc du coup, Nicolas Machiavel avertit le chrétien qui veut s'y adonner au fait qu'il y a deux moyens incontournables, la force et la ruse. Donc au chrétien de savoir comment utiliser la force et la ruse dans sa pratique politique. Mais est-ce que, au regard de l'avertissement machiavélien, le chrétien, en tant que fils de Dieu, qui a l'autorité de Dieu, qui sait ce que Dieu veut, doit rester cloisonné dans son coin, doit rester confiné dans son coin et voir massacrer des gens et voir des politiques utilisées, surexploiter même ses prochains? Je pense que non, l'Église a une responsabilité sociale. Et l'Église doit agir comme le Christ. C'est par là que je veux conclure. L'Église doit agir comme le Christ. Le Christ est venu, il a vu le monde. Le monde n'était pas beau à ses yeux. Mais comme solution, le Christ a décidé de se sacrifier pour le monde, à la croix. Donc si l'Église doit être vitale aujourd'hui, si elle se veut vitale, elle n'a pas le choix. Elle doit faire comme le Christ. Elle doit aller au sacrifice si il le faut. Et elle doit agir. Pour terminer, j'aimerais remercier les organisateurs de ce congrès et remercier particulièrement M. Stan, Père Mayemba, et très particulièrement 3 femmes, Maman José Ngalula qui a instruit l'un de mes textes que je n'ai pas eu l'occasion de présenter ici, et les 2 autres, et Madame Léoninda, la sœur Léoninda, et sœur Mombi. Pour moi, ce sont 2 femmes infatigables. C'est pourquoi je sais que j'ai le droit à des ovations après ma présentation. Je souhaiterais que ces ovations soient orientées vers sœur Léoninda et sœur Mombi.
Merci beaucoup, M. Kofi. Vous méritez aussi des applaudissements.
Speaking about the political commitment of the African Church in the face of the Machiavellian articulation of morality and politics. So his talk was about the 2 main points. The first one was about the political commitment of the African Church. And the second one was the Machiavellian articulation of morality and politics. So one of the main points of his motivation is that there is a need in Africa for the church to be involved into politics. And on the other side, as a philosopher, he had admiration for Machiavelli. But when you look at the political philosophy of Machiavelli, he's putting a dichotomy between politics and religion. And for Machiavelli, politics is about strategy and power, which is very different from religion. And so according to him, Machiavelli discouraged Christians to be involved into politics. So for Dr. Bru, how can Machiavelli be a source of inspiration for the church, or how can he discourage the church? But for him, if we only focus on the way Machiavelli understands morality and politics, Christians will be discouraged to be involved into politics. So for him, we have to go beyond the Machiavelli understanding of politics for the church to be involved. And according to Tungbu, the church in Africa has no choice but be involved. If the church in Africa refuses or is off politics, it will lose its credibility. Because the reality of Africa makes it so difficult in such a way that the church must be involved. And we see politicians during electoral campaign going around the churches, using the churches for their own election. And so the church has to step up and be able to denounce. And that will be the role of the church as the prophetic figure and witness within African context. So as a conclusion, he says thank you to the organizers to have invited him. Thank you to Dr. Stan. Thank you to Jose Ngalula, and thank you to Leonida. And a very special thank you to Mombi for what they have done for him, to support him. Thank you very much.
Now it's palaver time. So we will interact as the other days. You say what has these three papers inspired you as insight, as question, as contribution. So maintenant c'est le temps de la palabre, le temps de l'échange. Vous avez la parole pour exprimer ce que ces trois conférences vous ont donné comme inspiration. Voilà. Good morning, you are sleeping, you are sleepy. No.
So I was just being told by the committee that the microphones are working, but you only turn it on when you are about to speak. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you to our great presenters. My observation is for our dear sister who spoke, and I think I heard her saying she worked with the Bishop Conference for 10 years. And having listened to you, I just wish to know, what are your experiences working with the Bishop? Positive experiences. Are there some challenges that you could have shared with us to help those who are working with bishops in future? What are the things you gained from them that we would have loved to learn from you? Thank you.
I was touched by the three presenters, but the point was started by Sister Anna. What touched me from her presentation, and was also reiterated by others, was having a holistic approach on making the church vital. She began by saying we need to have an impact on every individual, and then the individual moves on to the family, the small Christian communities, the diocese, the nation, the region, and then the ladder moves on. She said at each level, we can impact on the policies, have an influence on the policies that can bring change from the moral point of view. I thought that was a very important aspect. Then she said, as we do this, we need to be inclusive, have an inclusive approach. And I wanted to add one point to that. I was proposing that as we think of being inclusive, we think of developing programs that will cater for everybody. By this, we priests have been accused that we normally preach to people who are already converted, those who come to church. They already know who God is, and they come for a purpose. A greater number of people who need conversion don't even see the need to come to church. We have politicians, we have business people who are doing their business, people in leadership positions. So we need to develop programs that will reach out to all these, and once these people are catered for, including politicians, I think the church will be vital. But thank you very much, and congratulations for the presentation. Thank you.
Much for your very deep insights about extractivist economy and what kind of theology could be raised in that kind of situation. You make me think about some other projects around the globe where different, not only churches but also civil society are involved trying to face this kind of systemic violence. And I think we need to get connected more and more between the global south, I prefer epistemic south, to strengthen forces, understanding of what's going on today in the world. Of course, extractivist economy is one of the main issues, but also how communities and people, they organize themselves to resist that kind of violence and to create also new ways of living. And I think that's my contribution to this conversation, that the church is one partner in this conversation, but it's not the only one. We need to listen carefully. Some other churches, of course, but also civil society, some other social movements. It's very important to expand a little bit the conversation, I think. We can continue talking about that. Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup. Merci à vous, Monsieur Kofi, pour votre intervention. Votre intervention me faisait penser un peu au deuxième synode africain. Le deuxième synode africain a beaucoup insisté sur l'engagement des chrétiens et particulièrement dans la sphère politique. En marge du deuxième synode africain, il y a eu une proposition qui est d'ailleurs en cours, c'est celle de la béatification de Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere, qui était président de Tanzanie, chrétien. Pourquoi? Parce que l'Église voulait justement montrer qu'il est possible de se sanctifier en faisant de la politique. Vous savez, chez moi, par exemple, quand on dit que tu es politique, ça signifie que tu es un menteur. Donc la politique est synonyme de mensonge. Et en voulant béatifier justement Julius Nyerere, l'Église veut montrer que les chrétiens doivent s'engager dans le domaine politique et que la politique est un lieu de sanctification. Mais je crois qu'il y a quand même une condition. La première condition, c'est l'engagement chrétien. Qu'on soit vraiment fortement engagé dans sa foi, comme l'était Julius Nyerere. Et la deuxième condition, c'est le non-bricolage. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut connaître. La politique, il y a des techniques. Je prends un exemple. Quand les évêques condamnent par exemple la corruption, ils ont raison. Mais les politologues, les sociologues leur disent que la corruption que vous condamnez, celle des policiers qui demandent de l'argent aux taximans, ils disent mais ça c'est pas la vraie corruption. La vraie corruption est systémique. Donc ça signifie que si on veut que l'Église, les chrétiens, s'engagent vraiment en politique, il faut qu'ils soient formés au niveau de leur foi, mais qu'ils soient formés aussi aux affaires économiques, sociales, politiques, pour que leur parole ait du poids. Que ce ne soit pas du verbiage, que ce ne soit pas simplement de la moralisation, mais vraiment qu'on dit voilà, vous avez volé, prouvez-nous que vous avez volé. Et alors, on est capable donc d'apporter quelque chose. Merci.
So you say that, sisters, should I translate? So, sisters, should I translate? You say that, adding to what Dr. Bruce said, that what you have said about the need for the church to be involved in politics, remind him of what they did say in the African Synod, that church must be involved into politics and be a prophetic voice. At the same time, he was saying that there is a process in the Church of Tanzania to beatify one of the first leaders, Julius Nyerere. He was a very good Christian, but also a very good politician. So we can put together being a good Christian and being a good politician. And in his own country, when you are told you're a politician, it means you are a liar. So it's a good way of looking at politics as a place where you can also evangelize.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to contribute to the conversation around the involvement of the church in politics, particularly with respect to the Machiavellian articulation of morality and politics as presented by Kofi and mentioned here and there by a few others. And this is also in response to some of the comments that we have heard from the floor. My view is that probably we should agree with Machiavelli and keep the church out of politics. Why do I say this? Because We are involved in politics, but we are not making a difference, which means we are doing like everybody else. There is no church, really, because we are engaging with politics without any difference. So if it would be good if we kept away, because then there would be a difference. And I'll still repeat what I have said over and over again, that the church has great potential, but we have not used it. And we continue to talk and talk and talk without making any difference. And probably what I would like to say going forward is that we need to have conversations like this and say, what do we want to do? Wait a minute, let's stop doing politics. Let's stop thinking politics and ask ourselves, where is the problem? What do we need to do differently? We can't continue doing things the same old way and expecting new results. And I'll link this to what I see as the problem with Africa. One of the biggest problems we have in Africa has to do with our education. The system and the kind of education we are putting ourselves through. And I'm not an educationist myself, I'm an untrained teacher. But over the years I have learned that there are two curricula in every class, or in every course, or in every session or lesson, if you wish. There is the hidden curriculum and there is the formal curriculum. Very often, we concentrate on the formal curriculum and ignore the hidden curriculum. Unfortunately, our students listen to the hidden curriculum and they pick it up and they run with it and they completely ignore the formal curriculum. In the context of the church, what we are doing is exactly the same. We do the formal curriculum, which is what we say on the pulpit, from the pulpit, what we say whenever we stand to talk, what we say whenever we have a conference like this. That is the formal curriculum. But there is also the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is what we actually do. That is what people see and that is what people run with. So it's not so much about preaching to the converted. I think we just don't have the converted. We think we do. We think they are in church, but they are not there. We have a different story altogether. So what I see is people copying what they see happening with what they read on the media and what they see wherever they see it. What we've seen in Kenya, for example, over and over again, every election year, is that the church, whether you're thinking of the top leadership or you're thinking of lay people like myself, the church is part of the problem. We get obsessed with money, to be very precise. We want money. We know the politicians have the money, and we go for the money. Meanwhile, we are talking to our converted and telling them, you need not to vote along tribal lines. You need not to look for money. You need not, we are saying this, but we are doing this. Of course, people are sharp. They'll pick the hidden curriculum and run with it. So that's our problem. We need conversation around that. Frank, open, honest conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. My contribution. Thank you so much for the panelists of this morning. I'm looking at a situation where when COVID started, the COVID-19 pandemic, and
Stand. Who is
yes.
speaking? Is using her mic?
I don't know.
Please, stand up, please. Yeah.
I was not the one speaking, but I've taken the opportunity. Thank you.
Let me finish, sister. Sorry, let me finish. Yes, sorry, maybe I'm sitting, that's why someone is speaking on my behalf. Okay, let me stand. I was using the example of COVID-19. When COVID-19 started, the government was able to reinforce their powers towards us, especially the church. And we were told everybody not to go to church, nothing was taking place, and we followed. Now, when you look at the church, when should they have the power to say no to some of this aspect of environmental pollution and so on and so forth. Obi, when you were presenting, I was just trying to find out a situation where the church is looking at the government as a problem. But when you do your research well, you realize that at the end of the day, it's not about even the politicians. We have business individuals, we have elites who are really the cartels, who are working behind the politicians, and they are using people amongst us, the Christians and whoever is there, to propagate what they really want. But not necessarily the politicians or the government leaders or whoever we are looking at. But really there are cartels within the church, and there are cartels within the countries that are manipulating the poor. Even the industries themselves, the people who are running these industries are not even in politics, they are not even in the government, they are not even leaders, but they are taking advantage of those situations, they are taking advantage of what is happening on the ground. And this is something that we really need to look at it keenly, because even not really politicians, some of them are very good people, very Christians, if I may use that term, and they are doing a lot for the people. But really there are some inside jobs that needs to be done, really research, proper research of what is happening. Because even within the church, there are cartels who are very good looking, yeah, very partial, but they are really not. So it is something that really needs attention. Thank you.
I would like to thank all the three presenters because they are really handling things which are so vital to our church and to our nation. Sister was speaking about servant leadership and witnessing. And in order to be a vital church, we religious priests, bishops have to be first vital within our own selves. Why am I saying this? The aspect of servant leadership, unfortunately, sometimes we like so much to exalt ourselves other than making the church be the church of the poor. Why have I said this? In most occasions in churches, in celebrations, be it religious celebrations, you see the places where people sit and where they are placed, the voices which speak in those occasions, mostly the poor are not represented. In this conference, I was touched. There are two young people in this conference. And as they were coming out, I like always associating with those people who are isolated and not speaking. So I spoke to them. They must be somewhere. I said, how was the session? They said, this issue of synodality, we are not understanding what is it. They say it is inclusive, but it's not. Then I said, why didn't you raise the question during the time they were asking? They said we raised several times and no one gave us the opportunity. So it is important to listen to everyone at any time. Then too, Father was talking about the environment. Let us begin using the environment ourselves productively in our own institutions. In the time of meeting of the formators, we said, can we implement this first in our own institutions, in our own formation houses, to ensure that the environment is productively used and we can be able to open out and even to teach to other people what it is. Between the dilemma between politics and religion is still a dilemma that we need to pray about it and see how to approach. Thank you.
Thank you for the floor. I'd like to say something about the church and involvement in politics in Burundi. We went through a crisis in 2015-16 over a contested third term for President Pierre Nkurunziza, Peter. And during a time in which there was violence and a lot of tension and very emotional expression in public domains, the church was a steady voice of reason. The Catholic Conference of Bishops in Burundi in particular steadily advocated dialogue, nonviolence, essentially listening, the principles of synodality. This did not mean that they were able to stop the president from running for a third term or even stop the violence that surrounded that, but to have that steady voice that is allowing principles of dialogue to be spoken, I think is extremely important. I would also observe that politicians are moving very much into the sphere of church. Peter Nkurunziza had his own church, the Church of the Rock, and he was Peter. And we see the new president of Burundi, who's a Catholic, also using the church and staging himself, carrying the cross and the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, for instance, most recently. So let's not forget that the space of the church is being very much entered and appropriated by politicians, and the church does need to speak to what is happening socially and politically. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate very much the view that as church we cannot afford to not to engage with the political environment. But the question I would like to raise, perhaps, I don't know, for the next Congress, is the effects of everything that is happening at a personal and existential level, you know, of people. That while we address ourselves more to the structural reasons for the state of affairs, which we should do that, but these consequences affect people at existential level, where they are personally anxious in their lives, worried about, you know, everyday things, you know, the poverty at existential level, the sickness at existential level, the effects of drug addictions of their children, I don't know, the marriage that is not working, the sickness, you know, that they have, that the church also needs to address issues, you know, at that level. Otherwise, as one speaker really has said, I don't know who it was, that what we are presently doing, you know, we are not the only ones who are doing this, you know, engaging about issues at structural, you know, level. There are many others who are doing that. But there is also this important dimension as well of the existential level, where people experience the consequences of all the ills that we have at a personal level. How much, you know, as church are we present there and enabling people? I'm not invalidating, you know, what is being said about our involvement in politics. I think we should, but there is also this personal dimension as well that as church we need to be engaged in.
Thank you very much to everybody. The time is over because we have other sessions. Let us have a clap for our presentation. So, Sister Leonida. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We clap for our panelists as well as our moderators. Thank you, we appreciate it. I'm sorry, for the interest of time, we don't have time. We can continue with the discussions outside this hall because we're actually running out of time. What follows are the concurrent sessions that will run from 11 to 12. 11 to 12, then we go for lunch directly from the halls where we eat. We have 2 sessions. One is chaired by Doris Van Gaal. Doris, where are you? You go to room 5, the basement, room 5, please. And the discussion is on accountability in a vital church. Then the second group is under Edward Obi. Edward Obi, where are you? Yes. Obi, yes. You'll be going to room 6 on the, we have a basement here, room 6. We run from 11 to 1, and immediately after we go for lunch. This means the poster session will be skipped. Thank you. 11 to 12, sorry, 11 to 12, sorry.
Donc, on n'a pas de temps pour discuter ici. On va directement dans nos lieux de session. Et le premier groupe qui sera animé par Doris Van Gaal sera à la salle numéro 5. Deuxième, celle-là c'est la session sous la responsabilité dans une église vitale. Deuxième groupe sera, Edouard Obi sera l'animateur. C'est la responsabilité dans une autre. Donc ils seront à la deuxième salle, au sous-sol. Et on finit à midi, probablement 5 minutes avant midi, parce qu'à midi, il faut déjà être au réfectoire. Et n'oubliez pas, à 1h, on devrait déjà être en dehors du réfectoire. Et pour ceux qui ne savent pas, toutes nos sessions sont toujours en live sur YouTube et sur Facebook. Donc si vous voulez, après cela, vous pouvez encore aller revoir. S'il y a d'autres que vous avez ratés, vous pouvez aller sur notre YouTube ou sur notre Facebook pour le revoir. Et si vous voulez, s'il vous plaît, essayez de le partager. On voudrait qu'il y ait autant de personnes qui apprennent de ce qu'on a fait ici. So, if you want to follow what we are doing, remember, everything here is streamed live on our YouTube and on our Facebook pages. So try to share it so that not just us here, but everybody, make it a kind of point of duty to share it to at least one person so that others will benefit from what we are living here. And if you can, please don't forget to like our page. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.